Hey everybody, welcome to Leon's Chainsaw Parts and Repair. It's the end of the day. Been a long day. Worked on a lot of saws for quite a while today. One of them was the Mini Mac 30, and it had been to a shop prior to coming to me, and the owner had been told that it had piston ring problems. Okay, I'll just cut to the chase. It didn't. Now, I forgot a key point about McCulloch pistons, and when I looked through the muffler port, I could see a gap, and I thought, oh crap, there is a broken ring there. Maybe that's what they saw too, but McCulloch doesn't use, at least on those models, an anti-rotation pin. So what I saw was the gap between the two ends of the rings, or at least one ring. The other one was, offset somewhere else. Ideally, you don't want those appearing at a port, but I don't think it was actually hurting anything. Now, the compression when I rolled it over wasn't as high as the replacement engine that the owner sent me with the saw, but I guess the whole point of this video is most shops don't want to work on a classic saw. They just don't. In fact, if it's more than 10 years old, if they take it in, I think odds are pretty good that you're going to get a statement like that there's, no parts available, broken piston, bad compression. Oh, there's a number of excuses that'll be thrown out there, and it's funny. I've talked to people who work in the small engine business who are dealers, and they don't want the hassle. If they can't call their local supplier, whoever it is that's supplying their carb kits, their hose, all that stuff, if they can't call them or log on to the computer, I guess would probably be more like it today, and get those parts, they just don't want the hassle. They don't want the headache. They got too many other things to deal with. And I can kind of see it. If your model is selling Steel or Husky or Echo or one of the other lines that actually has dealers, you're going to be focused on repairing what you have sold and other items of that brand within reason. If you're a small engine shop that focuses on Echo and somebody brings you in a Homelite Super 2, you're not going to want to mess with that. Now, what I wish is that these small engine shops would just say, well, exactly that. We really don't want to mess with this. It's not something we work on. Sorry. But, go online, find somebody there. There's people out there. But the excuses of you can't get parts, very few of these shops actually, they know better. They know about things like eBay, but they don't want to mess with it. So you can't get parts. Well, that's usually not true. The false diagnosis, that one just blows me away. That Mini Mac today probably would have run, and probably would have run fine with a simple carb kit. It needed one. But I can guarantee you that shop hadn't taken it apart at all. Not an iota, other than to pull the spark plug. And they couldn't find spark either. I'm not even sure they were grounding the spark plug to the case because that back handle is plastic. So anyway, if you have a classic piece of equipment, and by classic, honestly, 20 years old or older, the 2000 plastic Homelites, that's a classic. There's no damn parts out there for them compared to what's available for the stuff when Homelite was actually an American company. There wasn't the dealer network at that point, and next to nobody actually stocked those items to repair the saws. And Homelite didn't keep them in production. The Chinese version of Homelite didn't keep them in production long enough to really have a stores of materials. There's a few things you can get, but not a huge number. And many of the carbs, they didn't offer a carburetor kit. It was just throw it away and buy a new one. But again, classic equipment. 20 years old or older. Your saws from the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, God forbid the 60s, 50s. Almost certainly, if you take it to your local small engine shop, they're going to give you one of those excuses. If they're really honest, they'll just say, we don't know how to work on that and we don't want to work on that. I can respect that honest answer. But if you do find a shop that is willing to take it and they tell you that there's something majorly wrong with it, like, again, a scored piston, no compression, do your homework. Don't just take their word for it, because it may be their way of, saying we're not going to work on it, but we're going to tell you this so that we don't look bad. Take the muffler off. Simple way. Just take the muffler off and look at the side of the piston and look at the piston rings. If you see a bunch of scoring lines in there, or it's dark, maybe. Dark not alone. I mean, carbon will build up and make a heat mark on the side of a piston. But if it's dark and etched and nasty, okay, I would believe that. Many times with an ignition system, if it's a points ignition system, they just need the points filed. Condensers go bad. Points go bad. Absolutely true. I don't replace them all that freaking often. Most of the time, I file the points, regap them, or regap the flywheel, and she's got spark. I can tell you that Mini-Mac today, that's all I did. Beautiful spark. Bright blue spark. So, anyway, this is probably going to drag on longer than I intended it to, but just kind of wanted to get that out there, that most shops really don't want to see that stuff. They want to sell whatever's on the shelf and service something that they sold. It's a better profit margin. I get it. But do yourself a favor, and if you get bad news that you weren't expecting, take some time to verify it for yourself. And another thing, man, I don't know how many times I've had somebody email me and say, hey, my saw runs, but I took a compression reading and it was only 95. Your saw wasn't running, or at least not hardly at all, and not well. You've got to be, in my experience, above 110 to have a stable idle, to be able to accelerate without a stumble. Below 110 psi, you're in the range where a two-stroke isn't going to run. It might fire, but it's not going to run, and certainly not run right. So, if you've got a Harbor Freight or, some other not terribly high-end compression gauge, and you get one of those kind of readings, give it a second thought. If your saw runs like it should, accelerates good, idles good, I would almost guarantee you've got north, 120 or north on your PSI. So, but anyway, do a little homework, check your stuff if you get bad news from a shop, because odds are in favor. They just didn't really want to work on it. So I don't want to see somebody throw away an otherwise cool piece of equipment because, they were given bad news, and it may not be based on reality, just be based on what a shop is or is not willing to do. So hopefully that'll help a few of you guys, and we'll catch you on the next video.